Day 1. Doris was glad to be home at last. It had been a busy morning of yard sales, antique stores, flea markets, and finally, the strangest curio shop she had ever stepped foot in. But, exhausted though she was, it wasn't the cause for her elation to be home. Rather, her mind was on her single purchase of the day. After stepping in from the outside, she made straight for the living room and placed the package that she was carrying down on the end table next to her recliner. Doris took a seat and lifted the lid of the box. She removed all of the pieces of tissue paper that packed it, folded those into neat little squares, and placed them in a tidy stack on the table. Then, very gingerly, with both hands, she removed the mirror from the box. It was only the beginning of the month, and she spent her month's budget on it. But what did that matter? When she caught sight of her reflection in it while there at that shop, she knew, hell or high water, she had to have it. No, to Doris, it was well worth the cost. Besides, she wasn't a little girl anymore. It was her money after all, and she'd spend it however she damn well pleased. Doris removed the soft black velvet cloth covering the oval-shaped mirror. At first glance, its polished cherrywood frame looked rather austere. But upon closer inspection, if one were to look very closely, strange symbols could be seen etched into the wood. However, Doris didn't care about the frame, and paid no attention to the odd runes and hieroglyphs that were found thereon. She cared only about that reflection, that beautiful reflection. She smiled at herself and admired her beaming, pearly white teeth. She ran her fingers through her hair and watched herself curl her full, raven black locks between her fingers. She stared deeply into her emerald green eyes, which seemed to gleam with far more intensity than all the world's jewels. She watched as tears began to well in those stunning eyes of hers. The rest of the day, she ate nothing and drank only 1 cup of hot tea. She wouldn't have even had the tea if it hadn't been an excuse to look at the beauty of her hands and her delicate fingers reflected in her new, wonderful mirror. In time, she could no longer fight off sleep. Too tired now to go to bed, she placed her mirror down on the end table next to her, lowered her head, and fell asleep in the chair. Day 2. Doris dreamed of her mirror all night. The dreams were so vivid that when she awoke, she wondered if everything hadn't been a dream. If everything hadn't been a dream. She sighed both in contentment and relief when she looked and still saw it beside her, there on the table. Then an idea came to her, inspired by one of her dreams. She went into her bedroom and took her makeup kit from her vanity. After wiping a thin layer of dust from it, she promptly returned to the front room. She had a little bit of difficulty as she tried to reposition her chair so that the end table would be in front of her. But at last, she succeeded. Then, very carefully, she leaned the mirror against the table lamp so that it was upright and she could see herself as she applied her makeup. Her lipstick was put on last of all. It was a dark crimson, and it accented perfectly her dark hair and milky white skin. She blew herself a kiss in the mirror and said in a whisper,
"Hello, beautiful."
She didn't eat or drink anything all day. It was too difficult to break away from the mirror. For the second night in a row, she fell asleep in her chair. Day 3. Around 10:30 in the morning, the phone rang. Doris didn't answer. It wasn't important. Her reflection, her beautiful reflection, that was all that mattered. That was all she had time to focus on. She sat all day and into the night in her chair and stared with unparalleled intensity into that mirror. She fell asleep with it on her lap. Day 4. It wasn't quite 11 in the morning when a knock came from the front door. It went unanswered. It was followed by another knock, then another, then the door was opened. Just a crack, and a voice yelled in through it. "Miss White, it's Oscar from next door. I tried calling yesterday, but I couldn't get a hold of you. I haven't seen you out in the yard lately. I just wanted to make sure you were okay." Having received no reply, Oscar let himself in. "You are okay, aren't you, Miss White?" Oh no. Oscar saw Doris White sitting in her recliner, head tilted down, with a broken mirror at her feet. He could tell from where he stood that she was not breathing. Doris White died in her sleep at the age of 84. She died as so many before her, and as so many shall after her, lost in the reflections of the past.